Hey, Joey here from Left Empty, and today we're going to be breaking down all of the production elements in our brand new song, Detached. Okay, so just like the last production breakdown I did for Beautiful Mistakes, this session here is the pre-production session that we worked on while we were writing and essentially producing the song ourselves before handing it over to Atrium Audio, who did the mix and the master on this song and all of our previous work as well. But I do have the drum stem, the guitar stem, all the stuff that we ended up doing in the studio also in this session as well, just so you could kind of hear it in context. But a lot of the lead guitars, all the synths, random effects, stuff like that, we all did before we went into the studio, and then we handed this stuff over to them and let them do their thing with it. All right, let's dive in. So the song starts off with this little spooky synth that has a bit of a roll throughout the whole thing, but I will just play it for you so you could hear it. And then it comes in again throughout the whole verse. So this synth, and I'm pretty sure all the other synths were made with Slate Anna 2. That's kind of my go-to synth these days just because it's really easy to kind of flip through presets and tweak them along. On this one track here, the signal chain's pretty simple, but I'll just go through it real quick. Just some EQ. I wanted this thing pretty filtered out to get out of the way of the guitars and the bass. Little radiator, just adding some saturation. I really like this thing. It's super quick to dial in if you just want a little bit of grit on something. API, compressor, pretty slow attack, also a slow release. I think I was just trying to control the peaks of this thing. It kind of goes up and down dynamically a little bit, and I just wanted to sit a little better. Another EQ, boosting some top end here. As you can see, little radiator does create some noise, which, you know, sometimes isn't a big deal, but it's good to keep in mind. And then Pan Man, I love this thing. As you can see, it's just kind of moving the synth back and forth between the left and right channel and just gives a little more movement to it, makes it less stale. Also on the verse, we have this piano pluck. I like doing these sometimes in the place of impacts or with impacts just to kind of give like an initial hit on the downbeat, but it also has a pitch. I'll just play it for you. Pretty standard type of thing, but it's got some delay on it as well. And then this pulse, this thing is really, really cool. Play all in for the verse just so you could kind of hear all these things going on. Love that bass tone. Atrium absolutely killed it with that. So yeah, that's all really going on in the verse. There's some like risers and downers. I'll go through those a little later because I actually want to hone in on one specific part of those a little later in the song. I didn't go over the intro, but really it's mostly carried by the guitar riff, but the spooky synth does lead into it. And then there's just some like little trappy hi-hats in the second half here. Let's see. Next is the second half of the verse. Okay, so in this part, there's a lead guitar. This lead guitar is, if you watch the Beautiful Mistakes breakdown, I'm pretty sure it's the same tone that's happening. It's a really kind of dissonant lead that's just kind of filling out the noise floor underneath the riff. I think this is the same tone. I may have tweaked it a little, but with this preset that I made, the shimmer really does a lot on this reverb, and it just kind of lifts it up a little bit and gives it that extra little bit of high end that is nice for this type of lead. Chorus, we didn't really do much production on at all, but we did add this pad here underneath it. That pad is essentially just playing the guitar chords just held out to kind of drone, fill out the bottom end a little bit, and it's pretty saturated with, Decapitator. I'm doing a lot with this on it. I'll play it with it on and off just so you can really hear what it's doing. Just kind of fills it out with all those nice harmonics, makes it a little gross, also more pleasing at the same time. Saturation kind of has this effect on things where you could definitely overdo it and really blow things out, but a lot of the times I will use it in place of like EQ or compression because it kind of has the effect of both if you dial it in the right way. Like even with Decapitator here, like this A preset, without even dialing in anything, this preset is a lot darker than E, for example, which is a lot brighter. You could just load one of these up and it'll kind of do what an EQ would do in a more pleasing way, I find. Yeah, so that's the chorus, and other than like risers going in and out of them, that's the only like synth stuff happening. We didn't put any lead guitars over the chorus either. We really wanted to kind of leave it a little bit more bare as opposed to the verses, and then once we get to the bridge and the breakdown, that there's quite a lot happening. So in verse 2, it kind of starts off with this ring out on the guitars and bass, and then there's also this lead ring out. This, I'm pretty sure, was the same preset as the other lead guitar. I really overused this Gojira preset, but hey, it sounds cool. But I'll play it over this part, and I'll bring in the other leads as well. So actually, that wasn't the same preset. I could tell just from hearing it. I think it's some sort of like rhythm tone I dialed in to double against the main rhythms. So here, I'll play that for you as well, just so you could kind of hear all the guitars. Second half of verse 2 is the lead again, but it's a little bit different. So same tone on that, but it goes really nicely against the first lead. I have them both happening actually, so I'll play them both together. We also got the spooky pad and the pulse, so I'll play that all as well. And you know, compositionally, if you kind of listen to what the guitars and bass and drums are doing, that stuff is kind of holding down the downbeats, and then you've got all of this stuff that I just showed you, these lead guitars, the synths, adding 8th note and 16th note movement, just kind of keeping the momentum up without making the initial riff like faster or changing up the drum kit parts. And I will say also that trap hat from the beginning is happening here as well. So again, these you pepper in these little production things, whether it's like percussion sounds or synth sounds, and you definitely want to be deliberate with your choices when you do stuff like that. You don't want to just throw stuff in there just to throw it in there. This stuff was all picked either to add noise floor and kind of fill out certain frequency ranges that the band section of the song was lacking, or give it a little bit more momentum in maybe a more creative way than to just like make a faster drum part or something like that. I'll just skip over chorus 2 because it's exactly the same. This is where the production really starts getting crazy in the bridge. As it builds up, there's this drum sample that comes in. Not really a lot of processing on it because it already sounded pretty good on its own. Just some EQ and then compressing it a little bit. At the end of it, I have it cut onto a different track. It's this like, I call it glitch swell. I'm pretty sure I pulled it from the same sample. Just to give a little bit of a riser into this breakdown. Synth-wise, it's got the low pad going on, it's got the spooky pad, the pulse, and then a bunch of risers as well. But let's just go right into the riff, because that's really where the cool stuff starts happening. During the first half of the breakdown, we've got low pad, we've got spooky pad, and then we've got all of this stuff called gross. I didn't know what else to name it, but there's gross 1, 2, 3, 4. And they also sync up with all of these impacts down here as well. So I'm gonna go through each one of them just to show you what they're adding, but they were all, I guess, strategically placed to land on downbeats. So whether they're either hitting on like kick drum or snare drum parts, because this drum part is very open, very broken up. So there's a lot of space for this kind of stuff. So this is gross 1. And then gross 2. And then gross 3. And then 4. That one actually sounds pretty cool on its own. I'm going to single it out just so you can hear that. Pretty ridiculous sound, but in context, it's really cool. I pretty much used the same processing across all 4 of these because I kind of wanted to make them all sound roughly the same. I'll just go through the first one, but EQ, and then I probably did different EQ on the other gross layers. A lot of decapitator all the way up. The only way I could have pushed this more is if I hit the punish button. And then more saturation with Sound Toys, little radiator. Yeah, so those are hitting all on downbeats, but also I think it's important to show all of these impacts. So these impacts are kind of meant to work alongside these gross synth layers. So I'll play each one. Actually, I'll just play them all so you could kind of hear them all in succession. So those are all landing on like major kick and snare parts to this whole thing. I'll add in all of the synths with those impacts as well, just so you can really hear what the production is doing behind this riff. Bring in these crashes too. I like to accent down beats with crash samples as well. Kind of saves the mixer from having to automate crashes on downbeats. You just kind of drop something like this in there and then gets the job done. And then I'm gonna pull it back a little bit to this part just so you could hear how all of the production carries into this section with these risers and such. Second half of this breakdown, there's a little more. We've added a piano pluck on the downbeat, just like in the verse, but there's this really cool drum loop happening. I was actually inspired by a Turnstile song on that last album they did, where they had this drum loop going behind the drum kit where there was like a snare sound in the loop and it hit on the opposite beat that the real snare did, and it just felt really cool. So I tried to find a sample like that and throw it over this section. I'll play it for you. I'll actually play it against the drums so you could hear all of that in one. So it's that da, 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 that sound that's happening in the loop. I'll play it soloed out so you could hear it. Really cool sample with like those glitches happening throughout it as well. Just so I could kind of hammer in on this one more time, I'm gonna play this bridge one more time with our leads and our drum samples, all of our synths, and all of our effects. Just so you could hear in its entirety all of the production behind this big breakdown part. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Go check out our brand new song, Detached, and our brand new debut EP. It's called Stare Into the Sun, Stare Into the Void. It's out now on Theoria Records. If you want to hear more production breakdowns for any of the songs in that EP, let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching.